And I'm going to show you a little segment here. It'll start in unremastered, and then it'll switch over, and you're going to see a split screen showing you before and after.
이해로 明日もあるんだ。オーバーペースするなよ。目いっぱいな。分かってる。本当に行こうぜ。はいよ。
Stuff that wasn't used in Robotech before, and also because it's OVA quality, it looks a little better. Yeah, fans just love that whole 80s throwback stuff. So we've got a name for this now. Actually, our marketing people were, all over the place for it. They were going, "Love, live, alive." That's kind of an awkward name, So we were going all over the place, like Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Crossdresser. But anyway, we decided the most appropriate name just to call it was Robotech Love, Live, Alive. And actually, I've got a little bit more to show you. We've got the segment from Carl Masik's Robotech Universe talking about it.
There's some buzz going around that we might be recording some material in which Lancer plays an integral part. There's some found, lost footage as well as some new footage that's going to be employed in the project. And kind of a tribute to following through with the last thing that Carl wanted to put together.
Carl, being a character person, had a great idea which makes Robotech Love, Live, Alive possible. This was something that Carl had in mind since 1986. We had done our research and we thought that there was some material in Japan that had never been brought over into the United States. And Carl looked back on what he had done with Robotech and he said, well, let's do what we did with Robotech, is let's adapt the story, let's rewrite all the transitions to make it work within the Robotech universe, and let's do what we did with Dana's story, which is one episode that was completely edited from scratch to make it a transitionary episode to tie the three series together. And he said, let's do a Dana story on Love, Love, Alive. Let's take it and let's make it longer, and let's make it a much more substantial story, so it's not just a big long music video. So we have a powerful story underneath it, and so that it has consequences for the characters. This is going to be old-fashioned Robotech from the 80s, and we're very honored that this is going to be Carl's final project. A wonderful, beautiful sayonara to the fans. There's some fans who already seen it, and one of the things that they brought up was it was light onto content because it was a music video. But one of the things that Carl was always known for is he looked at the material that made up Robotech as raw material, and you could mine it, and reworking it into overall Robotech storyline, we were able to make something a lot better with it. And so, and actually, you might have seen the shot of Dana, and so there is also a little bit of supplementary footage that's being created. Here's some designs of additional footage we're creating to kind of fill in the gaps in Robotech Love, Live, Alive to make it a more fluid story. And of course, with an eye towards keeping it look cell animated. And that we're hoping to wrap up work this year, and let's see. So that is Robotech Love Live Live. And actually, we're going to show off. Oh, Steve's got it right there. So come to the Robotech X fan booth for the rest of this weekend, and we've got this all. Actually, this is kind of interesting. We've got two different interpretations here. One we've got on screen. We've got the slick kind of Shadow Chronicle style, updated, modern look, and then we've got the old school throwback. So let's have a little unscientific poll. New and slick, old school throwback. All right. We know where the audience heart lies.
Still in the 80s.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. If you want to keep up to date with the Robotech News, you can follow us on twitter.com/robotechnews or facebook.com/robotech. And also here, we've got the Robotech X Fan Club at the Mezzanine, the Toynami Robotech exhibit. Also on Saturday, Richard Epcar, the voice of Lunk and Ben Dixon, is hosting an after party at Wet Willie's at 9 p.m. So if you want to see this gentleman in person and have a rockin' good time, we recommend that you show up there on Saturday. And now we're going to open up for questions. All right, we're gonna have it where if you ask a decent question, we're gonna let you pick out a good prize here. So it better be a decent question.
Make sure it's a short question and no two-parters or three-parters or anything like that. All right?
All right. Yes.
When are you going to release the Robotech Blu-ray version?
All right, the material that's been released in Blu-ray, such as Shadow Chronicles, is material that was already produced as such. One of the things we're trying to have with HD production is we're waiting for the cost to come down. Because some of you know that there is a Macross Blu-ray in Japan, but I think the street price of that is like north of 360 bucks. So that's why we're waiting for the cost to come down, because we know American fans are a little bit more cost conscious. So, and one of the things being that, you know, everybody knows that, I guess the film aficionados know that it was shot at 60 millimeters. So, next.
I know in Japan they were releasing an anniversary collection with the Do You Remember Love movie and video game and promotional art.
Yeah.
I was wondering if any of that will be released in the US or a game or anything.
In terms of licensing right now, the only part of the licensing for Do You Remember Love that's been cleared for the US has been the merchandising. So in terms of home video, that's still up in the air. For Do You Remember Love, there's several different partners, including, I believe, Toho Films. So that's much more complicated. We haven't crossed that bridge yet. Yes?
Any news on video games?
Warner Brothers has the rights to that. They want to coordinate any kind of video game release, big video game release, because they have huge budgets to coordinate with the live-action movie.
Is there any thoughts on like backstories on some of the characters, like Roy Fokker, maybe building an anime version of that? Just to
Yeah, no, I know there's, you know, one thing that's been discussed in Comic-Con lately is there's been a huge, like fans getting involved and throwing their sweat into, you know, into the ring where they started creating fan films. And so I know there's fan works on that. In terms of the backstory, we did do that with Robotech From the Stars. It was a prequel story on Roy Fokker, available from DC Comics. Just Google it on Amazon. It's a trade paperback. And that one was one of our more popular stories. Yes?
Any news on whether or not we'll get Macross Frontier?
Don't know. Don't know when that's going to happen. The companies in Japan that are responsible for the Macross licensing outside of Japan have had some issues regarding the Macross license. So yeah, we don't know. Actually, anybody got a question for Ms. Masick? Could you step up to the microphone?
Well, one question I had was when Carl Masek organized the Robotech series, did he ever envision it be lasting this long in terms of popularity? And also, did he use as a mindset his love of Star Wars and help editing what we now know as Robotech?
I think at the time, Carl knew that it was going to be a great show because there was so much talent that went into the show. So many talented people worked on it, and I think he knew that it was a good story. And he had this theory of, trying to create evergreen projects that, would just have a continued appeal. I don't know if he knew it would go this long, but I think he knew that it was going to be something that, was going to be around for a while. And of course, he brought all of his knowledge of, all sorts of projects he'd worked on to everything. That's what you do when you're creative, you just build. So.
Oh, I want to add one more science fiction universe to that. How many of you are the McKinney novel fans? Love reading those books? All right. How many of you knew that Carl was also a fan of Frank Herbert? Oh, you didn't know? Okay. Crack open a Dune book and see how all the quotes are laid out. And you're going to find out right away that Carl was a hardcore Dune fan. He loved that universe. And substitute protoculture for the spice, and you'll see a lot of parallels. All right, next, sir. Question?
It's right here. Okay, I'm hoping Svea can elaborate. I was originally going to ask you, did Carl ever talk about his comic book shop in Orange? And I think Svea may be able to.
Well, I was right there with him, helping him with the whole thing. So, do you mean he talked to me about it, or just in general? I mean, the store it started out as a gallery. That's what our original intent was, for animation art and art dedicated for film. So we had a lot of pre-production art. So we had a lot of interesting stuff, and it was a true gallery. And then we were so far ahead, it was, people would walk in there and they would just look at it and they didn't know what they were looking at, because we actually did real gallery shows and we had everything up on the wall and it was all lit and, really done well. But people really weren't familiar what they were looking at. So, to make it last and to make it work, we had to then go back to bringing in other items that people could relate to. And it ended up being a really cool place to go because there were so many things to look at. But that was how that story evolved.
Amano? Or do you want to pick a prize?
Oh, we got good stuff here still. All right, next question.
What are the chances of we ever seeing Robotech Genesis in animated form or reimagined comic form?
Well, the closest reimagining we've seen, there's two. There is the Waltrip brothers. They had their kind of touch on it, in which they expanded the backstory of Zord. And then there was an alternate, more modern worldview of it with Robotech from the Stars, which came from Wildstorm DC. In terms of animated, we're not sure. I guess maybe the next best thing is if one of those could maybe be updated into like an e-comic with animation. So maybe it's possible. We haven't started on that yet.
Hey Tommy, I was wondering, have you chosen the ADR director for Love Live Live yet?
Yes, we have.
Could you maybe give us a hint?
Okay, all right, yeah. Actually, we did, all right, we'll release some more information. The gentleman that we picked for this is the person who had the most experience on getting the dubbing done on Robotech The New Generation, and that was Greg Snegoff, the voice of Scott Bernard. And so, we are working with him closely on that.
Mrs. Masing, I just want to say thank you. And your husband, through doing what he's done, actually influenced me to join the Navy. I mean, if you watch it, it's carrier flight ops in Macross every day. I wanted to do that, And when I was a kid, I saw it. I thought that was great. I wanted to do it, so I did it. I joined. I served 13 years in the Navy, and I wanted to say thank you And as my question, when are you going to finish the Shadow Chronicles?
You know,
I've got a Veritech. I don't need anything else.
I was very happy to see the Shadow Chronicles come out, and one of the things that was actually kind of gratifying was, at first when we were working on it, Carl was busy on Lady Death over at ADV. He was out in Texas at the time, and when he came back to Los Angeles from the Midwest, the first thing we wanted to do was, you know, he was a very important resource. I mean, he was the godfather of Robotech, and as we got more involved together, well, you know, one of the concerns was, you know, gosh, did we kind of create kind of a big, interesting, you know, mess for the universe, you know? And one of the things that was actually kind of interesting is many of you who read some of the Robotech novelizations, such as End of the Circle, might have noticed that there was a lot of overlap, the mysteriousness of the Haydenites and so forth. And one nice thing was it was actually compatible with this view of where you wanted the universe to go. The only issue is some fans say, oh, why are you getting rid of End of the Circle? Are you disrespecting Carl's legacy? And actually the thing with End of the Circle was it was based on his notes when he had left the company. He had kind of like an outline of where he wanted, one more question, okay, we're gonna make this really quick, is he wanted it to be a long series, Robotech the Odyssey, and it couldn't be encapsulated in just one book. And so he wanted a big saga in there. And so we decided to kind of bring it out. But however, with Carl passing, those projects went front and center. We wanted to finish those first, hence Love, Live Alive and these soundtracks. But once we're done with those, yeah, we want to work on these other things again. All right, yes sir, you're the last question.
I know it's a little too early to ask questions about Shadow Rising, but I'm going to ask anyways. If not the main story, which I know it's not, but towards the end or maybe some unplanned project, can we see some more character mixed generation interaction? Like two things I kind of want to see if possible. I kind of want to see Rick Hunter and Max tell Dana, ha ha ha, you didn't make Skull later. The other one would be is like maybe Scott Bernard would tell Minmay, oh yeah, Jonathan Wolf lived, but then he died anyways later on.
What's interesting was anybody who Googles me on the internet knows that I've gotten a pie in the face because, you know, a fan had a vision of exactly how he wanted his Robotech universe to be, and what the people working on the show produced something that was different. So, you know, we have that Phantom Menace, you know, issue always coming on, is that Robotech has been around for such a long time that fans have their view of exactly how they want it to be. You know, the nice thing about, you know, creators sometimes creating something different is it doesn't cease to surprise us. And that's what I like about Robotech, is that's why I ran home after school, because it didn't cease to surprise me. And, you know, that's what I want Robotech to be, you know, a show that surprises the audience. You know, so I think that's very important for. Thank you very much. Since we're out of time, we've got some stuff here. We're going to give it away at the Robotech X fan booth, and some of you who run up here right now.